Hello, welcome to this quick Lessonpix tutorial. When you first go to your Lessonpix, you'll see in the top right, you want to log in first. So there is my login. I'm going to put in my password, and it's going to take me to my page. Depending on how much you use your Lessonpix, this is going to look a little bit different. You're always going to see the materials that you've saved. Those are kind of like your end products. You're going to see your saved trays, which are not necessarily your end products, but it is the tray that you have that has all the pictures that you needed for that particular item, schedule, picture cards, whatever it is that you're going to make. You can save those things here. As far as your materials, always remember that you can save any materials that you make onto your computer as PDFs. You just simply download them once the product is finished, and then you'll have it. So in the event that you're ever in a situation where you can't access your Lessonpix, if you save any of the products that you've created, you still have access to those no matter what. Okay. As you scroll down just a little bit further, you'll see your photos and custom symbols. So this is a way that you can insert your own photos. You can see that I have quite a few here. Some of these are related to making schedules. Some of them I've made as little tokens for students, or having an actual student demonstrating a specific skill. So you can easily download those. You just simply choose your file from your picture file on your computer, you title it, and then you upload it, and it'll just pop in right there, and it'll just stay there. And then these plus signs, you can just easily add it to your tray just like that. If you decide you didn't want that picture, any picture in that series, you can put them in the trash can. Okay. For today's purposes, I primarily want you to know how to make a basic visual schedule that primarily shows anytime you go out one door and into another. Okay. This is not getting into the weeds, the devil of the details between whether it's reading, math, small group reading, social studies. This is simply locations throughout the building. This is particularly important for those of you who are supporting students at those primary levels, K-3. Any MSD teachers, you want to make sure that your students have location schedules for the day. As students get older, sometimes we can write those, just write down what we're doing throughout the day. Or the students can use a schedule that the teacher has on the board, because as kids go on to middle school, maybe their schedule is the highlight is the room number, but it is more of a written schedule. But for a lot of our kids coming into primary, you need this overall schedule. That's not to say that you don't also need to include things like choice boards, token economies, and things like that. You absolutely want to embed those. Today, we're going to focus on just getting a visual schedule for locations, how to get those made. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do is you have to load your tray. So let's just say if this was the very first time that you have ever used Lessonpix, then you are going to start by searching. Okay. So let's say I'm just going to do a couple of quick things and then I'll show you. Typically, sometimes you want to have a picture of the teacher. So you might have a picture of a teacher and you add that person right there. If you feel like that's what the student needs to have, the actual picture of the teacher there, you can do that. A lot of times what I do is your two main teacher icons are going to be the classroom teacher and the special education teacher. So a lot of times for the gen ed teacher, I'm going to I'm going to type in what I'm looking for. I use classroom a lot, and I'll say go. And then I can see all matching items. And then I'm going to go down and find, I usually use one of these. Sometimes I'll use this one that has centers. Usually I'll use one of these depending. And so if that is the one I want to use for, let's just say this is Miss Jones. And if I already know the schedule, let's just say that I know that the student goes out and into Miss Jones' class 3 different times through the day. For me, there are a couple of different options, but I always go ahead and just put the number of times that I'm going to need that picture in there. I'll show you why in just a minute. So I'll add those. Then for the special education teacher, I usually do teacher. Hit go. And then I'll show you the pictures that you'll often see me use if I've helped you with schedules in the past. I usually go to the kidney shaped tables because oftentimes this is what it looks like. And let's say this is the teacher that most closely resembles the special education teacher. I'll put that in there. Let's say they transition to the resource room twice during the day. I'm going to add that. I'm obviously going to look for a lunch picture. So it's important if your student brings their lunch, you could use a lunch bag. If you know that the student eats the school lunch, you can use that. For specials, oftentimes for our elementary kids, what I do, some of you have seen this, I'll just use a generic icon. I don't know why I started using a blue star, but I use a blue star and I'll just label that as specials. Then you might, depending on your student, you can either just tell them, yes, look, it's time for, let's check your schedule. It's time for specials. We have PE today. For other students, you might have to have icon pictures, say on a ring, for your specials so that then you can say, let's check your schedule. Look, we're all done with lunch. It's time for specials. And then you pull out the ring and you show them the picture. It's time for art. Okay. And then obviously you would have a recess picture. And then a lot of times, especially for our friends who really want to go home, I always like to find out what their mode of transportation is at the end of the day so that I can put that on there. So if it varies, a lot of times I'll use backpack as the picture. But I always like to find out, are they a bus rider, car rider, walker, whatever that is. And then I'm going to add that. Okay. So now this is super important. I can save this tray if I want to. Let's just say oftentimes I'm working with a school and I might make a schedule for them. And especially if it has a particular teacher's picture in there, then I'm going to save that tray because they may come back to me and say, oops, we forgot there's one more transition or we changed the schedule or whatever. Then I can just, if I've saved the tray, not the product, but the tray, then I can easily go back to that. Okay, so I'm going to hit save and then I'm going to name it. And so let's just say I'm going to name this training schedule and then I'm going to save it. Now, what happens here is then all of these pictures have popped up over here and I can do a couple of things with this. Okay. So I can say that this is indeed the speech therapist. So let's just say, remember we said this, I can't remember, but let's say this is Miss Jones. This is Miss Jened. And so then I'm going to label all of these Miss Jones. Here is the pictures for the special education teacher. I'm going to label all these Miss Cooper. I usually take that school off of there and just label that lunch. I need to change this to specials. The other thing that you can do here is this is not, because I'm making a schedule, this is not in any kind of order. Okay. So now what I want to do is put this in, I'm going to go ahead and put this in order because it's going to save me time later. Okay, so let's just say that the student starts off in Gen Ed, then they go to speech, then they go back to Gen Ed, then they go to Miss Cooper, then they go back to Gen Ed, then they go to Miss Cooper again, and then they have lunch, specials, and the bus. Very important here, I'm going to save my changes. So now I have it, not only do I have it labeled the way I want it labeled, I also have it in the order that I want. So once I've done that, once I've saved it, I've saved any changes, then I can clear my tray. And then if you go back to your home page, which is your Lessonpix, you can see my most recent tray that I've saved is my training schedule. Okay, so now I've got all those pictures there. So now all I need to do is I'm going to add this to the tray. And I'm going to hit create materials. Once you know how to make a schedule, then you can come back in here and look. When you go down this list here of all the different things, here's what it gives you, you have the picture here of what it would look like. So these are like the picture cards. So if I was going to make a schedule with Velcro pictures, maybe on a file folder, that when they were finished with that item on the schedule, they put it in an envelope, I might use these, make picture cards. You have this type of pictures. So what we're doing today is going to a picture schedule. Now, a lot of times what happens is people stop here. They're like, well, that's not what I want, right? Because this is just your example. So you hit picture schedule. You might want to write these steps down. Picture schedule. Next. Now, what I'm going to do here is oftentimes what I do, you don't have to do this. Remember, because I saved the tray, I went ahead and put it in the order that I needed. I don't have to move these around. However, if the school said, hey, we've had a change and this is we've moved the speech time, then I could go in here. I've already got my tray saved. I could have saved the changes on the tray, or I could save it here. So you've got those two options. This is where you can move things around if you need to. What I really like to do here is, because these pictures aren't detailed, they're not the person themselves. A lot of times, especially for our little ones, I might color code. Let's just say Miss Jones has a lot of orange things in her room. So I might color code her icon pictures in orange. Let's say Miss Cooper loves light purple, okay, or lavender. So then I would make Miss Cooper's pictures, I might make her icons all purple. You can make anything outside of the room. You can make this one green. Yay, we get to go home, or however you want to do that. This is where you would do that. Then you're going to hit next. Now you're going to title it. So I might say this is Valerie's schedule. Now, again, a lot of people, what they do is they see this over here and they're like, but that's not what I want. This visual schedule, it says basic strip. So once you get here, you title it and then you choose your style. So write that down. You title it and you decide on your style. Okay, I make no secret about it. This is one of my favorite ones because it helps, you don't have to keep up with a lot of Velcro moving pieces. Sometimes that's needed, but if not, these checklist schedules that you can laminate and use prompting procedures to help the students learn how to check off those items. These are just easy to use. You can put them on if depending on how many steps are in the schedule, it might be just on the front, it might be on the front or the back. So this is really important. The number of steps that we have in the schedule that we're making right now, there were 9 steps. A lot of times there might be up to 12. The more it's only going to do, the most it will do on one sheet for the checklist schedule is 10. The more steps you have, the smaller the icon. So what I like to do, I'd rather have on the front of a file folder and the back of a file folder, I might rather have like 5 steps so that then my icons are going to be a little bit bigger. Okay. So then I'm going to hit finish. And then you can see it right over here. And then I'm going to hit download as a PDF. Valerie schedule, and then I can save it to my computer. So now I have it saved, and it's in two pieces. That one's blank. What I could have done to not have this blank one, actually, where it said number of steps. Well, I don't know. Never mind on that. I'm not sure why that was blank. This is why this is good. It's not perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to say, so I've downloaded it. Let's say I saved it on my computer, and then I'm going to hit done. Let me see. Oh, whoops. Okay. So sometimes you have to verify that you're human with Lessonpix, or at least I do. So let me get back to that. Okay, so it did it did save this schedule. Okay, so now I am still logged in. I'm going to go back to my Lessonpix. So now let's go through and let's look at, I'm just going to do this part super quickly. Remember, this is where you can add color or rearrange. This is where the title and your style. So there are all kinds of things. So I see this one a lot, a flap schedule. And this is where the, I'll pull it up. The flap schedules, so then you fold and then they cover it up when it's over. There's like a piece of, there's room for you to have a piece of Velcro. Okay. Now, that's okay. I will tell you that sometimes what I have seen is the flaps don't stick, the flaps rip off. And so that is a downside to using that. Another one, going back, picture schedule, next, adjust, title, and your style. Where there is another one that I see a lot. It is like on one page, a to-do and a finished. I'm not sure which one, if that's even through Lessonpix. You want to be careful. Part of the reason for having visual schedules is that because our students oftentimes have difficulty with understanding the time and sequence concepts. So one of the most important things is that you are showing in a pretty concrete way when things are finished. So with the flap schedules, with the to-do finished schedules, sometimes it's really hard to tell. when something is completed, or it's still the schedule looks busy. You want it to visually look like, so that it feels like, okay, I'm getting to the end of the tunnel here, right? Like I'm almost finished, I'm making progress. So this is just another example. You can go in and look at all kinds of examples on these. Here is the like one with dinosaurs. Okay, I'm gonna do keep. I don't know why that did that. Let me see if I have one already created in my materials. So you can use like dinosaurs. You can see that here. Now, the thing about whether it's dinosaurs, balloons, crayons, turkeys, holiday lights, whatever that is again, these icons get smaller. They're a little bit smaller than they are like on the checklist schedule I showed you. So you want to make sure that when you put in your number of steps, remember that, that you reduce the number of steps. So let's just say I want to do let's just do a dinosaur. Okay, I'm going to change my number of steps. I'm going to change that to 5 steps. So that means because I've got 9 items on this schedule, it's going to split it 5 and 4. So then I'll hit finish. And you can tell here, I'm gonna go ahead and download it. So you can see, here that it made those icons a little bit bigger. And on these, what you could do, the thing is how are they going to go away? So this could be like, are you going to have a check? If they're laminated, you could just have them check it off or mark it off. Over the years, I have, tried to reduce my the number of Velcro things that I use, just because it's hard for you guys to keep up with, especially if you have students who are also using structured work systems, token economies, choice boards, and all of those things. So this is just a simple tutorial for making a schedule. I'm going to show you one more thing. Let's just say you wanted to use like a 2-pocket folder, and you wanted to go from left to right on the schedule, and then where they when something is finished, when speech is done, we transition and we put it, say, in like an envelope that's on the back of the folder. Again, you're going to create materials. You're going to go to picture cards, and you're going to just print out those pictures. Now you can use this a lot. The picture cards are great for when you're making choice boards, when you have a lot of reinforcement pictures, like, first work, then computer, all of those things and if your school has a strategy station, or if you access the Autism Strategy Station Google folder, all that kind of stuff is also already in there. But just so that to print out, those pictures, then you decide here how you want it. I typically, a pretty standard size is the 4x5. So this means you're going to have 20 pictures on a sheet. So you can kind of gauge and look at different ones. And again, you're always gonna, when it comes through, you'll have a chance to label it and download it. So download as a PDF. And then I'm going to open it. Now, I would have labeled this like schedule pictures for for whoever the student is. But you can see here are the pictures right here. Now, last tip on this, if you're going to do something like this and you're going to use the pictures and then Velcro, and they're going to remove the pictures when they complete the activity. It is always best to cut these picture, if you can print them out on cardstock, great. Then cut them out individually before you laminate them. If you laminate this whole sheet, they're not gonna last as long. If you've got a student who is hard on their materials, then what you can do is, if you can print these out on cardstock, then use rubbers, then use cut the individual pictures. It's an extra couple of steps, but then you would use rubber cement to glue each individual picture onto a file folder, that cut them out from there, and then laminate them. That makes them super, super sturdy. So for kids who tend to be hard on their materials, that is also a great thing to do. So I hope that this quick mini lesson on Lessonpix was helpful. I would encourage you to start playing around and make schedules. You can also, there's all kinds of things that you can do with Lessonpix. You could, if you have a student who loves dinosaur, you can put a picture of a dinosaur on your tray and make lacing cards, cutting lines, all those kinds of things. There's learning games, comes in handy for holidays. There's literacy, and there's early math and science. So Lessonpix is great because there's a variety of things that you can do. And even more importantly is that you can build your own library of visuals, so that you don't have to keep going to back to the drawing board every time you need to make something for a student. So hope you found this helpful, and I hope that you take advantage of and utilize your Lessonpix account. So I'm going to stop sharing and stop the recording. So thanks, everybody.